You planted it. You framed us, you liar. Amara's voice cracked like thunder in the sun-drenched study, her fists clenched as tears streamed down her face. Chadwell Royce bolted upright from his chair, eyes wide, the security footage frozen on the massive screen behind him, showing a shadowy figure slipping into the shadows with a velvet box. Vanessa's smirk twisted into rage, her manicured nails digging into the armrest. How dare you accuse me, you nobody from the projects! Uncle, are you really believing this over your own blood? Lena clutched her mother's skirt, sobbing uncontrollably. I didn't take it, Uncle Chad. Mama says stealing breaks your soul, please. Why won't anyone listen? The room spun with gasps, the Potomac River glinting mockingly through the windows as Chadwell's hand trembled on the remote. Enough! He roared, his voice echoing off the marble walls. Betrayal hung thick in the air, thicker than the D.C. humidity. And no one knew yet that the real poison wasn't in the jewelry, it was in the family ties snapping one by one. In the heart of Georgetown, Washington, D.C., where power brokers wheel and deal under the shadow of the Capitol Dome, stood the sprawling Royce Mansion, a Beaux-Arts masterpiece overlooking the Potomac River, complete with manicured gardens that rivaled those at Dumbarton Oaks. This wasn't just a home, it was a fortress of American ambition, filled with signed memorabilia from Oval Office meetings, crystal chandeliers that had witnessed lobbyist dinners, and a staff bound by ironclad rules. Maids like Amara Bradford weren't allowed to disturb the master unless summoned privacy was paramount in a city where secrets could topple empires. Disruptions meant instant dismissal, no questions asked. In a town where one wrong move could land you back on the unemployment line at the D.C. Department of Employment Services. Chadwell Royce, the 8-year-old cybersecurity tycoon whose firm safeguarded Pentagon data and whose net worth graced the pages of Forbes, had endured a brutal day. Morning started with a heated Senate hearing on Capitol Hill, grilling him over data privacy scandals that echoed the Facebook Cambridge Analytica mess. Lunch was a tense power play at a Foggy Bottom steakhouse with venture capitalists eyeing his next big AI venture. By afternoon, back in his opulent study lined with leather-bound books on American history from Hamilton to Zuckerberg, he was drained, his ex-wife's alimony demands still ringing in his ears from a nasty divorce that splashed across the Washington Post's society pages. Betrayals had piled up, board members skimming profits, relatives begging for handouts only to ghost him. Trust? That was for suckers in this cutthroat capital. So, as the golden hues of a D.C. sunset filtered through the tall windows, Chadwell slumped into his grand leather armchair, eyes closed, breathing steady like a lion feigning sleep to lure prey. But he was wide awake, heart pounding with suspicion. He deliberately cracked open the massive wall safe, spilling bundles of crisp $100 bills across the Persian rug, untidy and tempting, like forgotten winnings from a Nationals game bet. This was no accident. It was a trap, bait for the innocent-eyed intruder he expected any moment. The soft patter of footsteps echoed from the hallway. Lena Bradford, the 10-year-old daughter of his maid Amara, who had tagged along during school break from her public elementary in Anacostia. Amara, a Jamaican immigrant who'd bootstrapped her way to this gig after years of odd jobs, was scrubbing the kitchen downstairs, oblivious. Lena, with her wide, curious eyes and braids tied with red, white, and blue ribbons from a 4th of July sale, wandered in as kids do, freezing at the sight of the money mountain. Chadwell held his breath behind shut lids, waiting for the telltale rustle of theft. This is it, he thought, cynicism surging like rush-hour traffic on the Beltway. Even kids from the hood can't resist poverty's the great equalizer, turning saints into sinners. But the sounds that followed weren't greedy grabs, soft shuffles, careful stacking. He cracked an eye, just a sliver, and his throat caught. Lena wasn't pocketing bills for candy at the Navy Yard Whole Foods. She was kneeling, tiny hands organizing the cash into neat piles, pressing them flat like her mom taught her to fold laundry after shifts. She hummed a tune from Sesame Street, whispering, "Uncle Chad works super hard, like those senators on TV. Mama says don't touch what's not yours, this needs to be tidy so he doesn't lose it." His chest tightened. This wasn't the script. As she finished, smiling to herself, Chadwell shut his eyes again, mind reeling. But then, in a hushed mutter, Lena added something that froze him colder than a January inauguration. Mama's been so sad about the Whole Foods bills. She even sells our old cans from the recycling to afford extras. But we can't take this, it's not right. The twist hit like a scandal breaking on CNN. No outright theft, but a glimpse into Amara's desperate side hustle, skirting the edges of his property for survival. Was this innocence, or the gray area of need, in America's unequal dream? Chadwell exhaled slowly as Lena skipped out, deciding in that moment to slip an anonymous bonus into Amara's next check from $15 an hour to double, no explanation. But doubts lingered. Could he really trust anyone in this city of snakes? 2 weeks later, the Royce mansion hummed with a new kind of tension, the kind that creeps in like summer humidity rolling off the Potomac. Chadwell had quietly doubled Amara's pay and left a sealed envelope with a Whole Foods gift card thick enough to cover groceries for a year. He told himself it was just a bonus, nothing more. But every morning he found himself watching Lena a little closer, the way she helped set the breakfast table without being asked, how she watered the hydrangeas along the garden path, how she called him Mr. Chadwell, sir, with a shy smile that reminded him of simpler times before boardrooms and backstabbing. Amara noticed the shift too. She kept her head lower, worked twice as hard, and whispered to Lena every night in their tiny apartment off Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue. "We don't owe nobody nothing but honesty, baby girl. That's how we survive in this city." Then the front gates buzzed one Friday afternoon, and in rolled a candy apple red Porsche 911 with California plates. Out stepped Vanessa Hargrove, 25, influencer famous, Louis Vuitton duffel in one hand, iced Starbucks in the other. Chadwell's niece, daughter of his late sister, fresh from L.A., with 1 million followers and zero filter. "Uncle Chad," she squealed, air-kissing both cheeks like they were at a Met Gala after-party. "I needed a break from the fake Hollywood crowd. D.C. is so much more real." Real lasted about 48 hours. First, it was the little things, Vanessa's AirPods missing from the marble counter. Then a limited edition Rolex Submariner vanished from Chadwell's nightstand, the one he wore the day he rang the NASDAQ bell. Next, 2 crisp $100 bills disappeared from the stack he kept in the kitchen emergency drawer for staff tips. Vanessa didn't whisper her suspicions. She announced them at dinner loud enough for the Kennedy Center to hear. "I'm just saying, Uncle Chad, you can't let people from certain neighborhoods roam freely. Things go missing the second you turn your back." She flicked her platinum hair and took a sip of her rosé. "It's basic security 101. Amara stood frozen in the doorway, silver tray trembling in her hands. Lena peeked from behind her mother's apron, eyes wide. Chadwell's jaw clenched. He wanted to defend them. He'd seen the truth with his own eyes. But old ghosts whispered louder. The partner who embezzled millions, the ex-wife who cleaned out the Cayman's account, the cousin who sold company secrets to the Chinese. In Washington, trust was a liability. That night he did something he swore he'd never do again. He set another test. He left his MacBook Pro open on the desk, screen unlocked, a dummy file labeled Offshore Accounts, Confidential, glowing like a neon sign. He even angled the built-in webcam to record. Then he retreated to the shadows of the library and waited. Soft footsteps, the creak of the study door. It was Lena, barefoot in her Wonder Woman pajamas, clutching a crayon drawing she'd made earlier, the Washington Monument, with a stick figure, Chadwell standing at the top, smiling. She just wanted to leave it on his keyboard as a surprise. But when she leaned over the desk, the screen lit her face. The file opened accidentally under her curious finger. Numbers, bank names, offshore codes, words she couldn't even pronounce. Vanessa burst in like she'd been waiting in the wings. "Caught red-handed!" she shrieked, snatching the laptop. "Snooping through private files, probably taking photos to sell to the highest bidder. Uncle Chad, get in here." Chadwell stepped from the darkness, heart hammering. Lena's face crumpled. "I wasn't stealing, Mr. Chadwell. I was just leaving you a picture. See?" She held up the crayon drawing with shaking hands. Vanessa rolled her eyes so hard they nearly fell out. "Oh, please, Kids from Anacostia don't draw monuments, they screenshot bank details. For one terrible second, Chadwell wavered. The footage on the laptop showed Lena's finger hovering, then clicking. It looked damning. He sent Lena to her mother with a quiet, "We'll talk tomorrow." Amara's eyes met his across the hall, hurt flashing like lightning over the National Mall. As the house fell silent, Chadwell sat alone in the dark study, replaying the nanny cam feed on his phone. That's when he saw it. 30 seconds before Lena entered, a different shadow crossed the screen. Vanessa, slipping in first, deliberately opening the confidential file, angling the laptop just right, staging the entire scene. His blood turned to ice. Vanessa hadn't just accused an innocent child. She'd tried to weaponize his own paranoia against the only honest people left in his life. And tomorrow morning, she was going to learn what happens when you play dirty in the city where scandals go to die. Or be reborn. The next morning broke hot and sticky, the kind of D.C. summer day where the marble monuments sweat and even the politicians move slow. Chadwell hadn't slept. He sat in the breakfast nook, staring at the frozen nanny cam frame on his tablet. Vanessa's manicured hand clicking open the file, her lips curled in a smile that looked almost proud. He was still deciding how to handle it when Vanessa swept in wearing white tennis whites and a fake smile. "Morning, Uncle Chad. I'm heading to the courts at East Potomac Park. Gotta stay snatched for the gram." She kissed the air near his cheek, then dropped her voice. "By the way, my Tiffany diamond earrings, the ones that cost more than her yearly salary?" She jerked her head toward the kitchen where Amara was quietly making Lena's lunch. "Gone. Vanished. I'm giving you one guess who took them." Chadwell's grip tightened on his coffee mug. "You sure you didn't misplace them, Vanessa? Please, I left them on my vanity last night." "This morning?" Poof. "And guess whose little sticky fingers were in my hallway after bedtime?" Before he could answer, she was already marching toward the staff wing, voice rising like a Capitol Hill filibuster. Amara was folding laundry in the small sitting room they used when Lena came for the day. Lena sat cross-legged on the rug, coloring a picture of the three of them, her mom, and Uncle Chad, standing together under fireworks. Vanessa didn't knock. She never did. "Search the kid's backpack," she demanded, arms crossed. "Now!" Amara went pale. "Miss Vanessa, with all due respect. Now, Amara, or I call the police and let them do it downtown." The room felt suddenly airless. Lena looked up, confused, clutching her Crayolas. Chadwell appeared in the doorway, silent, watching. Amara's hands shook as she knelt, unzipped Lena's tiny Jan Sport, the one with the faded Black Panther patch she'd sewn on herself, and turned it upside down. School library book, half-eaten granola bar from Whole Foods, a folded-up note that said, "Thank you for being nice to us." And then, with a soft, evil clink, a pair of glittering Tiffany diamond studs rolled out onto the hardwood like loaded dice. Vanessa gasped theatrically. "There it is. Proof." Lena's mouth fell open. "Those aren't mine! Mama, I swear!" Amara dropped to her knees, voice breaking. "Baby, hush now." She looked up at Chadwell, eyes shining with tears she refused to let fall. "Sir, I swear on my life, on my child's life, we didn't take these." Vanessa stepped forward, triumphant. "Uncle Chad, you saw the laptop last night. Now this? Fire them. Today. Or I swear I'll call Channel 7 myself. Billionaire's maid steals heiress blind." Imagine the headlines. "Ah." Lena started crying, big, silent tears rolling down her cheeks. "I didn't touch them, Uncle Chad." "Mama says liars go to hell, and I don't want to go to hell." Chadwell felt something crack inside his chest. Something that had been sealed shut since his ex-wife took half his company and all his faith in people. He looked at the earrings on the floor. Then at Vanessa's perfect French manicure. Then at the tiny, barely visible scratch on the inside of the Tiffany box, still sitting on Vanessa's vanity visible on the nanny cam he'd checked at 4 a.m. He knew. But he needed the kill shot. "Everybody in the study," he said quietly. 5 minutes. Vanessa smirked, thinking she'd won. Amara lifted Lena into her arms, whispering, "Hold your head up, baby. The truth always rises." Chadwell walked ahead, hands in his pockets, heart pounding like the bass at a Howard University homecoming party. because in 5 minutes, this house was about to burn. The study doors slammed shut like the gates of the Supreme Court. Sunlight poured through the tall windows, glinting off the frozen image on the 85-inch screen. Vanessa, 217A, M, slipping into the staff wing with the velvet Tiffany box in her hand, planting the earrings like a pro poker player stacking a deck. Chadwell stood in front of it, remote in one hand, the other clenched so tight his knuckles went white. Vanessa froze mid-step. The smirk died on her face. "Uncle Chad, that's not—" "Sit down, Vanessa." His voice was low, calm, the kind of calm that comes right before a drone strike. Amara stood tall. Lena pressed against her side, both of them silent but no longer shaking. Something had shifted in the hallway. Faith, maybe, or the simple knowledge that lies only win until the tape rolls. Chadwell hit play. Grainy night vision footage filled the room. Vanessa's own laughter, soft, cruel, echoed from the speakers as she whispered to herself, "Let's see how long the charity case lasts now." Another clip. Vanessa, pocketing the Rolex from his nightstand 3 nights ago. Another, sliding the $200 bills out of the kitchen drawer while pretending to look for sparkling water. And the final one last night, walking into the study, opening the offshore file, angling the laptop perfectly for Lena to accidentally discover. Vanessa's legs gave out. She dropped into a chair like someone had cut her strings. I was just testing me," Chadwell finished, voice cracking with fury. "Testing how far you could push before I finally saw you for what you are." He turned to Amara and Lena. "Amara, I was a fool. I let ghosts from my past almost destroy the only real family I've had in 20 years. I'm sorry doesn't cover it." Amara's eyes softened. "Sir, pain makes us blind, but truth opens eyes. We forgive you." Lena stepped forward, still clutching her crayon, drawing the one of the 3 of them under fireworks. She held it up. "I made this for you, Uncle Chad, before everything got scary. Mama says family isn't just who you're born to, it's who shows up when it's hard." Chadwell knelt, took the drawing with shaking hands, and pulled the little girl into a hug that broke something open inside him. Vanessa tried one last move, tears, real ones this time. "Uncle Chad, I'm blood. You can't just— You stopped being blood the moment you tried to destroy a child to protect your allowance," he said, standing. "Pack your bags. The Porsche leaves in an hour without you. And the trust fund? Consider it redirected to Howard University scholarships. In Lena's name." Vanessa opened her mouth, closed it, then ran from the room sobbing. The silence that followed was the sweetest sound Chadwell had heard in years. That evening, under a cotton candy sunset on the back terrace overlooking the Potomac, Chadwell poured 3 glasses of sparkling cider. "Amara, you're no longer staff. You're household manager, full benefits, 401, the works. And Lena," he got down on one knee, "Georgetown Day School starts in 2 weeks. Full ride, and when you graduate college, Royce Cyber will be waiting if you want it." Lena's eyes went wide as the reflecting pool. "Really, Uncle Chad? Like, for real, for real?" For real, kiddo." Amara started crying, then quiet, proud tears. "You're giving us a future we only dreamed about on the metro ride home." Chadwell looked out at the water, at the Lincoln Memorial glowing in the distance, and felt something he hadn't felt since he was a kid himself, hope. Because in a city built on deals, lies, and leverage, a 10-year-old girl from Anacostia and her mama had just reminded a billionaire what America is actually supposed to be about. And somewhere across the river, the fireworks from a Nationals game lit up the sky like the 4th of July came early this year. The end. Moral of the story. Real wealth isn't measured in offshore accounts or Georgetown zip codes. It's measured in the size of your heart and the strength of your word even when nobody's watching. Now drop your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever been judged because of where you're from? Ever had someone betray you who was family? Let me know. I read every single one. Smash that like button if this one hit you in the feels. Subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss a story, and I'll see you in the next one. God bless y'all, and God bless the real ones who keep showing up with integrity, no matter what side of the river they were born on. Peace.